What's going on, everyone? 71% of the S&P 500 closed down in the red today, and as we could see by looking at today's heat map, there were a handful of stocks that really fell off quite a bit, with Tesla, Nvidia, LLY, Home Depot, and a handful of other ones really sticking out. Just by looking at the market over the past, you could say, 3 trading days, it has definitely been a wild week so far, but the market is now at that point where it's kind of stuck in this, what we'll call weird no man's land, where it's like we're not falling off a cliff like we were towards the end of last week, but at the same time, we sure do not have as much strength as what would be ideal. So in today's video, we're going to cover the most important news to know, the biggest events to watch for tomorrow, and some great setups to keep close on the radar. Again, we're seeing some interesting shifts in supply and demand right now, and there's some pretty important things to be aware of heading into tomorrow. So besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's episode.
Yeah, today's price action on SPY was very similar to yesterday, except the big move was in pre-market to the upside, right? It didn't really come at market open, ended up rejecting though and falling right back off, kind of like what we saw yesterday into this morning. So now the SPY is sitting right around that 518 support, Mike, that we've talked about a lot, and it looks like the earnings and after hours tonight are actually pushing it a little bit under that support. So it's going to be a big day tomorrow for the market. And Mike, I know a lot of people are still having a lot of fear in the short term. There's still a lot of fear out there in the market, obviously, with the whole Middle East situation and everything like that. But also, we're starting to see a lot of fear from bigger players out there. You know, we talked a lot about Warren Buffett selling out of Apple shares over the past couple days. We saw a couple of Jamie Dimon statements today about recessions, and now Warren Buffett owns more T-bills than the Federal Reserve does. How does that happen?
Yeah, you're going to have to say that again, Tom. Warren Buffett owns what?
He owns more Treasury bills than the Federal Reserve itself.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting to say the least. And while sometimes these great investors like Warren Buffett might not say exactly what they're thinking about the market, their actions make their intentions crystal clear. And by looking at Warren Buffett's record cash pile, plus his recent enormous sale of Apple, which is his biggest position, that shows you how he's feeling about the market right now. So take that how you will. But again, when you see Warren Buffett stockpiling cash, especially in a rapidly increasing way, and selling off half of his biggest position, it's almost impossible to disagree with the fact that, this is a big move from Buffett, and it's not necessarily that bullish of one either.
Yeah, it really isn't. I think that this should actually take a lot of traders, and people should really take this to heart, Mike. I mean, these bigger players, like you said, they really start to show how they feel about the market based on actions. And with Warren Buffett doing this with Apple, I think that's a big negative in the short term. And then he's stockpiling cash as well. Like, Mike, it's not like he's just selling out of Apple and, pushing it all into Coca-Cola or something, is he? No, he's getting T-bills, and I think that that's a big worry. He's probably worried about a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, Mike. One of the things is unemployment ticking up. We talked about this yesterday. There's multiple aspects of the economy right now that are worrying, but the unemployment ticking up the way it is in the short term is not a good sign, and a lot of people are saying that we'll be in a recession soon. I even saw a article by Jamie Dimon today, the CEO of JP Morgan, saying that he thought that we could still have a recession this year. So I know that, sometimes these guys just have opinions of their own, but whenever you see Warren Buffett doing this and just all these bigger players saying these things, it's definitely a big worry in the short term that I think a lot of traders need to take more to heart. That's for sure.
And like another thing too is like when you see big news from Warren Buffett or any other major investor, it's not like the end of the world, right? It's not like you see this news and you should go sell all of your stocks. It's more so, a piece of information worth considering in an unbiased way, and then, just factoring it, I guess you could say factoring it into your overall investment process. So that's the best way to digest it. Don't get too freaked out just by the news headlines. But another thing to keep close on watch, Tom, are some of the earnings stocks that we have for tomorrow and the rest of the week. We had a handful of stocks report already with some pretty big moves.
Yeah, we did. So tonight we actually had Robinhood report, Oxy reported, and a couple others as well. Tomorrow morning we'll see Eli Lilly, Vistra Energy, Plug Power, Datadog in the morning, even Novavax, pretty big, Kronos, and then SoundHound and After Hours with Elf and Unity and Paramount. I saw even like Warner Bros. Was having a pretty crazy move today. So, Paramount could probably be pretty big tomorrow as well. But yeah, Mike, I mean, some of these earnings moves that we've been seeing are pretty crazy. Like, I've been looking at Robinhood and After Hours waiting for them to move, but I know like WBD and etc. are starting to move like crazy.
No doubt. And like I would say out of all of the earning stocks coming up for like tomorrow and like the next couple of days, LLY is going to be one I will have close on watch. Looking at LLY, especially over the past year, it has gained a ton off of the recent boom in like weight loss drugs and everything like that. And they are now a good amount off of their all-time high, right around $965 per share, but the stock is still up an enormous amount over the past couple years. Like if we go back just, a couple of years ago, this stock was trading between like $160 and like $300 a share, and it's like at $772 right now. So it's still pretty elevated. I'm very excited to see how this report ends up coming out, and if it is weak, it might present some good short-term bearish scalp opportunities, because when this stock does move, it tends to move with some pretty good momentum behind it. So either way, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and it's had some pretty big moves with earnings in the past as well, like this last February, and then even back in the end of April, beginning of May, whenever they reported, they ended up popping up pretty well. So, yeah, it looks like this one does get some pretty wild moves, Mike. It's a pretty popular company out there. Eli Lilly has definitely gained a lot in popularity lately. For tomorrow, I think Unity will be pretty big, and then even CGC on Friday for the MJ sector will be pretty influential. I know a lot of people have been talking about CGC a lot lately with all of the stuff going on with the vice presidents and everything. I know it was popping off a couple weeks ago, Mike, and once again, the marijuana sector started to cool off.
True that. But one other area of the market that is that has been cooling off, but showing signs of, I guess you could say, reinvigorating its uptrend is crude oil. So as we all know, with all of the rising tensions in the Middle East, in Israel and Iran and everything like that, if those tensions do continue to worsen, then oil has a lot to gain from that. We saw oil have a pretty great day today as it popped up by 3%. We are still yet to see a major attack from Iran, but if and when that does happen, and depending on the severity of that attack, that definitely has the potential to move oil prices in a major way. So again, keep a close eye on oil going forward. I do have a play with this one as the video progresses, but I definitely want to hit on that because, crude oil is like an area of the market right now that a lot of people are watching, and it's something that everyone should be watching, because a lot of people just think like oil, okay, it's just some commodity, but realistically, the price of oil and the way in which it moves has a huge impact on every other area of the market, because oil is just so like integrated into like the global economy, and it will like directly influence inflation rates as well.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine if we start to see something pop off with the Middle East and crude gets back to levels it did like whenever the Ukraine war was starting, like whenever it was up to like the 120, 130 mark? Man, we would see some pretty insane inflation if that starts to happen again. Hopefully that's not what happens and everything goes smoothly, but if not, oil will be something to watch in the short term. There's a big support on crude as well, right around the $73 mark. There's been a few bounces here over the past couple of years, honestly. Crude has been kind of stuck in this big range down here at the bottom. So this might be a big event, Mike, that could get it to push a little bit higher in the short term. And, coming up today, it's bouncing right off that support. And I know a lot of people have been kind of pissed off at crude lately, right? It's been falling off with all these tensions picking up. And I think people are, today was a good relieving day, right? To see some bullishness coming back in.
Finally, right? Crude has been pretty suppressed over like the past couple of months or so, and especially over the past like couple of weeks, it has just been downtrending nonstop. So we'll see what happens with this one. And again, we will jump back to this asset class in just a couple minutes. But Tom, as we look at, you could say, the SPY overall right now, as I stated in today's intro, we're stuck between this like weird no man's land where, again, we're certainly not like drilling lower like the market was a couple days ago. At the same time, this price action that we saw today wasn't that strong. So going into tomorrow, what are you seeing in terms of important levels and information for SPY?
Yeah, so actually 531.50 is a huge resistance. It was nice to see that reject there this morning, and ever since that, we've just been selling off. So I'm really watching 518 very closely for tomorrow. That's a huge support. We actually started to break it right around the time the market closed today and in after hours, so I'll be watching that for tomorrow if we continue to push lower. I'm looking for 514/515 next, and then more towards the bottom, 509 to 508 will be crucial, which is actually the low of this week, which happened in pre-market on Monday. If we start to fall under there, I think it could get pretty bloody. But honestly, Mike, I'm not liking this setup a lot. I actually feel like the SPY is kind of in a dead cat bounce type of situation right now, like where we're seeing a nice consolidation in the short term. But personally, I'm a little bit more worried about a larger sell-off ensuing here. Now, obviously, guys, that's just something to look for, right? We could always bounce back up, and it's important to be adaptable with that. So I will be watching that 531.50 resistance closely. If it breaks there, then at 536 will be the next major level after that.
All right, sounds good. As always, the more pressure the market puts on its lows, the crazier and more exponential the sell-off becomes, and the same thing works to the upside. What is not only important are like the levels listed, but also the way in which the market moves. For example, if the market just super slowly chops higher throughout the entire course of the day, then that will make for slow, choppy, boring price action with little opportunities associated with it. At the same time, when you see big moves in either direction, that is where like the momentum effect really starts, and that's where a lot of opportunities in both directions start to pop up. So definitely keep that in mind. And another thing I do want to hit on while we are just looking at the SPY is like, when we are in like these like situations where the market is, I guess you could say, kind of stuck, don't feel the need to force so many trades. There are a bunch of traders out there who almost have like that urge to trade like multiple times every single day, when in reality, if you don't see a good setup, don't force a trade and don't force risking your capital on an opportunity that just doesn't deserve it. So let's continue to practice smart, long-term oriented trading habits. But besides that, Tom, let's get right into the good stuff for today, which are some setups and predictions. A stock I'm watching very closely is XHB. XHB is technically a home builders ETF, but looking at this over the past week or so, the selling pressure has been intensifying, and it recently topped off around that like $121 level. Basically looking at the intraday price action today, it was a straight drop down for almost the entire day, which says a lot because as we look at other areas of the market, yes, there was a lot of selling pressure, but it wasn't to the extent that we saw with XHB. At the same time, this ETF is pretty overextended to the upside, and as we continue to see multiple worrying signs about the economy, that definitely does add some extra risk to the home builders area of the market. And I think that investors are already realizing that, and that's why we've seen such strong selling pressure over the past week or two. So basically with XHB, it'll be on my downside radar for tomorrow. I would love to see a break below that like $105.50 area. If we could see a break below that area and put constant pressure on the lows, I think this will make for a good downside setup.
Wow, Mike, I mean, this stock has had some pretty insane movement on the daily chart, right? Even to the upside a couple weeks ago, like at the beginning of July, this thing was ripping, and now it is falling off. It's almost like a falling knife on the chart, so to say. But with my first play, I'm looking at NVIDIA, and we're actually going to be looking at the book map here, because guess what? NVIDIA pulled back under $100 today. So that's a huge level on this stock. To see it fall under 100 around the end of the day was a pretty big deal. So I'm really targeting a couple more things to the downside here. There's a $98 support coming into play. If we break under there tomorrow, I'll be looking for a push lower to around 95 and then 92.50 and 90 under there. But I wanted to show it on the book map because I really like these targets to the downside. I know that we've been looking at Meta and a couple others a lot over the past couple days. Tesla was around $200 as well. So, but nonetheless, Mike, it's awesome to see these levels on Bookmap. You can see right where the buyers and sellers are lined up, and I love using those levels for decent targets.
There we go. All right. Another stock I'm looking at pretty closely right now is BNO, and this is an ETF that follows oil, which is what we were alluding to earlier in the video. But as we look at BNO, it is starting to bounce in a pretty strong way. There was a recent big money play with this one worth around $4 million, which is great to see. And while BNO has definitely sold off over the past couple of days, it is still in a much, I guess you could say, longer term uptrend, and the fact that it is actively bouncing off this lower area around $29 a share and making higher lows is a good sign. When you couple that with the recent tensions and news in the Middle East, that definitely does add for some more volatility and just craziness with this ETF, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because as we saw over the past couple days, you do have some more crazy adverse price action, but at the same time, with extra volatility, you have those truly parabolic upside moves as well. So either way, I just like the whole situation going on with oil right now, and especially the big money trade associated with BNO. So BNO will be close on my upside radar for tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a pretty awesome looking stock, Mike. I love the way it's bouncing around that support. I know that it fell off over the first couple days of the big money play, but nonetheless, they have till October, so you got to keep that in mind with the big money. There's going to be a little bit of volatility on some of those plays. With my next play, Mike, I'm going over to the QQQ and SQQQ, and I don't like the way that the market's setting up here in the short term. Like I was talking about earlier, I kind of believe right now that the QQQ and the SPY are in a bit of a dead cat bounce type of pattern over the past couple days. I do believe that with that move today and with the breaking of support, we could start to see a bigger sell-off start to ensue. And if that happens, I'll be looking for more upside opportunities out of SQQQ. And you guys can see how SQQQ held that $10 support very well from yesterday, and actually in after hours today started finally breaking out above the 1080 resistance, right? It took all day, but it finally got there. So I'm just going to look for more nice bullish price action out of this. Obviously, if the market gaps up in the morning and it starts ripping, this is going to be a no play. We need to see some good downside potential, and more selling pressure definitely needs to ensue.
All right, sounds great. Well, besides that, it's now about that time for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Bank of America to the downside.
Yeah, BAC pulled back pretty hard. There's a decent support right around 37 even. So if it breaks under there, then watch for puts.
All right, with the next one, we have KO to the upside.
Coca-Cola seems to keep prevailing, Mike, in these weird markets. I don't know what's going on, but if they break out above $69, then watch for a push higher.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Meta for both directions.
Meta has been pretty insane lately around this $500 mark. It pulled back under there again today. If it ends up breaking out above 500, then maybe watch Meta back up. But if the sell-off continues and it breaks under 485, then watch him back down.
All right, so we have the downside level for a potential move lower, and then we have the upside level for a potential move higher with Meta, but also don't forget the levels with KO and Bank of America. But either way, these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. The stronger and more consistent the price action is with these stocks, the better the setups become. If they don't break the levels listed, then don't force the setups. But Besides that, we are all free and clear for today's $902,000 big money trade. Today, we are looking at ticker symbol MDGL, which is a pretty big pharmaceutical company where the big money bought the 230 strike put options that expire on October 18th of 2024. Looking at MDGL, this stock has been all over the place over the past couple of years, and it had a pretty big red day today as the stock fell by over 12%. We could see that over the past 2 years, whenever this stock has made a pretty large move to the downside, oftentimes it has continued lower for weeks and months after the fact. April of this year is a great example of that, as well as May of 2023 and even January of 2023, but there are many more examples. But as we look at MDGL, this stock is very volatile, as all pharmaceutical stocks are. One thing worth noting specifically with this type of setup is that these put options could have been bought by someone who owns, let's say, millions and millions of dollars worth of this stock, where the put options are bought as a form of like insurance or protection against their shares. So definitely keep that risk in mind. But besides that, I think this is a very interesting big money play.
Yeah, I like the strike 230. It's like right around the money, especially like at least the where it is in after hours, right? If we go to after hours, it's actually sitting right at 230, which is kind of funny there. But nonetheless, it's an interesting stock, Mike. Like you said, there's a lot of volatility with this one. Sometimes the pharmaceutical big money plays can be some of the best ones, because you'll see some pretty insane runs, and who knows, maybe they know something is going on with it. But nonetheless, that's a major resistance, and the last time that it hit this resistance, it fell down quite a bit lower than it did, on this current pullback, right? The last time it did this back in April of this year, like you mentioned, it pulled back all the way to 190. Now, does that mean that it has to happen again? Definitely not. But whenever you start to see this much selling pressure coming in the short term, you could definitely think it could pick up a little bit, right? Or at least have a possible continuation in the short term.
No doubt. So keep a close eye on this one going forward. But as we continue to look at everything right now, while today has been pretty choppy and in some ways a little bit boring, keep your eyes peeled and be ready for some big moves and volatility. VIX is still at elevated levels, and the market is certainly not in a safe spot at the current moment. As we covered earlier in the video, when you have Warren Buffett making moves like he is now, that says a lot, and it's not something you see very often, especially the fact that Warren Buffett now owns more T-bills than the Federal Reserve itself. So keep that in mind. But as we look at everything, continue to remember to practice smart, long-term, sustainable trading habits. Have stop losses and respect them. Follow the money, trade with reasonable position sizes, and continue to just make good trading decisions. Don't feel the need to force too many trades, especially if opportunities aren't there. Let's make good trading decisions and have a great rest of the week. Before we close out, though, Tom, we do have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Chappie, in the StockedUp trading floor, who said it's his first trade with SM Bot, and it's a win. I'll take it. And he did pretty well with some ExxonMobil call options. So this was great to see, and keep up the great work going forward. If you guys are into short-term trading, check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to access basically all of our custom trading bots, the exclusive community with Tom and myself, the big money trades on the same day they are made, so you don't have to wait for these videos, as well as accessing our weekly live event, which is starting tonight. So come join us tonight if you join the trading floor. It'll start at 9 p.m. Eastern time, but we'll also have a recording for you. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's have a great day in the market tomorrow.